This program documents actual homicide investigations. Criminal charges are often dropped or reduced, and all suspects shown are presumed innocent unless proven guilty. For those most affected by a homicide, the first 48 is just the beginning.
Their goal was to execute them, all three of them. They didn't know who shot them.
I never experienced no pain like this.
This is the story of what happened in the weeks, months, and years after the first 48.
That's against human nature.
He says I didn't shoot anybody.
And it's against humankind.
Dallas, Texas. 2 years have passed since Detective Robert Arredondo led the investigation into the execution-style murder of Brandon Brown.
It was brutal and it was intentional. And that was something that was really playing in my mind.
That a killing so cold-blooded could be carried out by someone the victim knew shocked Arredondo's partner, Detective Dwayne Thompson.
It says a whole lot about a guy who can sit with you all evening long and have a good time, knowing in the back of his mind that later on,
you know, being new to homicide at that point and not really having much experience at all, there was some anxiety about it. I was ready. I was excited, but at the same time, I had some nervousness about it.
Got duct tape there.
Just trying to get a mental picture of what had happened.
to have had 3 people duct taped and stripped of their clothing and taken into the bathroom and bent over a tub and shot execution style, in my mind, I knew that Robert's work was cut out for him.
I'm going to show you a group of photographs. Okay. I'd like for you to tell me, do you recognize anyone? I showed him the lineup, and he was so adamant of Eric Harris that when I showed it to him, he took the lineup from me and he thumped it. Thank goodness I had Lopez and Thompson there to hold me back, because I was ready to go.
Once backup arrived,
All right, let's do it.
It made me want him even more.
It's frustrating, man. For that case to have taken off the way that it did initially on that day led us to believe that we're going to close this thing very quickly. It just took our breath away.
We stayed up a couple of days, leapfrogging lead to lead, and then all of a sudden, the scent is gone.
After waiting 2 months, detectives finally got a break. Eric Harris's girlfriend agreed to talk.
Now you have something that you can go with, and in this case in particular, it was big.
Detective Robert Arredondo was investigating the execution-style murder of Brandon Brown.
Brandon was a good guy. People loved him. He was a father. And me being a father as well, you know, I felt that we had some commonality there.
A wonderful kid. He had a loving personality, helpful and funny and caring. He was a good son.
Brandon enjoyed being a barber, cutting hair for the whole neighborhood.
Brandon had a daughter, who was nearly 2 when he died.
He really loved being a father because when he didn't have a child, he played with my son and my other brother's kids. He's just, kids like him. And for him to have his own, he was real happy. He always talked about his little girl. Just really, really, really talked about her a lot, like a typical father.
After waiting 2 months, detectives finally got a break. Eric Harris's girlfriend agreed to talk, and Arredondo hoped she would be able to identify the story Johnson had told the family friend who turned him in.
Right back. Lorenzo had told him they were involved in a robbery of some drug dealers and they had to shoot back.
Difference than the first Detective Arredondo interviewing the first suspect. You know, he's a lot more relaxed, he's a lot more experienced, and I think he did an awesome job over there.
Although he didn't admit to firing a weapon, he was a party to an offense. So I mean, it was huge. It was a great day for me that day.
I knew it wasn't going to bring Brandon back, but I felt really good knowing that he wasn't on the streets anymore.
Detective Arredondo knew he would be playing a crucial role in the prosecution.
I had been a part of murder trials, but never as the lead detective. I was concerned.
In Dallas, an execution-style shooting left 22-year-old Brandon Brown dead. Rookie homicide detective Robert Arredondo had arrested 2 suspects. Now, he faced another challenge, his first trial as lead detective.
I kind of prepared myself for the worst. Hey guys.
He met with prosecuting attorney Mark Moffitt and his investigator to prepare.
I expressed to Mark that I was concerned, mainly because I was such a young detective and relative of experience at the time this case was taking place.
You know, you can be a great detective and everything, and smart and intelligent, do all the right things, and you get up on the stand. I mean, that's hard. People don't understand the spotlight's on you up there. Whatever you do, know your file better. Better. Even the silly things, know it better than he knows it. All right.
1 year after the murder of Brandon Brown, Eric Harris was the first to have his day in court. He was charged with capital murder, which carries an automatic sentence of life without parole. The prosecution's case was airtight, with 2 victims who survived the shooting.
We have 2 eyewitnesses, and not only that, they know Black. They know Eric Harris.
It was clear Eric Harris was involved. The only question was what his sentence would be.
This defendant, Eric Harris, was the ringleader, and everybody believed that. This man's dead because of these 2 guys. Does his life mean anything? You look over there at Chris in that wheelchair. For the rest of his life, he's going to be wheeling around because this man tried to kill him. These are human beings, folks. Human beings that you line up and you have the gall just to open up fire on helpless individuals that are taped up. Folks, that's against human nature, it's against human rights, and it's against humankind.
Defense attorney Philip Linder argued that the witnesses were using drugs that night and were unreliable.
They used hundreds of dollars worth of drugs in that apartment that night.
I was hoping to get him found guilty of either aggravated robbery or a lesser included murder charge where I could get him a lesser sentence than the life.
Ladies and gentlemen of the gallery, the verdict is about to be announced. Please understand.
The jury deliberated for less than an hour.
Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is your verdict as follows? We, the jury, find the defendant, Eric Donnell Harris, guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Yes, we have.
Thank you, and it is unanimous.
The first trial wasn't as bad as I thought. It was obvious that Eric Harris was the guy. When the verdict was reached and it was in our favor, I was very excited.
It was just a horrific crime. And when you look at that as a juror, even though you may not be convinced that maybe he shot all three of them, and you know that he was a part of this, I think that's why they find him guilty. They've got to do something.
Wherein you shall be confined for your natural life until this sentence is otherwise discharged according to law. Good luck to you, sir.
Eric Harris would spend the rest of his life in prison. 2 months later, Moffitt and his team were ready for the trial of the second suspect, Lorenzo Johnson.
Now, Lorenzo Johnson was going to be a different case, completely different case. Because now what? I have Lorenzo Johnson's statement.
Finally, Moffitt planned to call to the stand the friend from Minneapolis who had turned Johnson in.
Johnson told the witness in Minneapolis that him and a gentleman had gone to rob a drug house or a couple of drug dealers, and that they came out shooting and that they had to shoot back.
On his side, Lorenzo Johnson had Edwin King, a longtime Dallas defense attorney who'd spent 4 years as a county judge. King planned to argue that Johnson had helped Eric Harris out of fear.
Who taped him up? Black told you to tape him up? Yeah.
Mr. Johnson said he didn't have any weapon, he never fired a shot, never shot anybody. He just did as he was instructed, just trying to get out of there.
Lorenzo Johnson's trial began on a January morning, 2 months after the conviction of Eric Harris.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Just like Eric Harris, Lorenzo Johnson was charged with capital murder. Murder committed along with a robbery.
And to the indictment, sir, how does your client plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Your Honor, please support defendant King to plead not guilty.
Thank you, Mr. King.
One of the first witnesses to be called to the stand was Chris Dickerson, who had survived the shooting. Moffitt was counting on Chris to establish that Johnson was a willing participant in the crime.
During this whole deal, did Black ever threaten this defendant? Like, you better do what I say, or
No, sir.
like that?
No, sir.
Did any of that appear to you that when he was under some kind of pressure to do this, did it appear that way to you?
No, sir.
What did it appear to you?
They came there to do what they had to do.
Mr. Dickerson, my name is Edwin King.
In his cross-examination, King tried to show that Chris was an unreliable witness. He read from Chris's statement to the police, which was different from his testimony.
Black had put the blanket over us. Then you say they shot us and they left. Yes, sir.
Don't mention I've ever seen Mr. Johnson with a gun. Correct?
Yeah, he had a gun.
Never tell that to the police, do you?
It might not be honest. I might have told. Mind you, when the shots were fired, these individuals were covered up with a blanket huddled in a bathroom. So they didn't know who shot them.
When Prosecutor Moffitt called a firearms expert to the stand, he hoped his testimony would strengthen their claim that Johnson was one of the shooters.
We have a 25 auto, that's one, a 9mm, so that's two.
He said there were at least 3 guns involved.
You get the autopsy report back and you're like, whoa. We know now that we have 3 guns involved, and the likelihood of 2 shooters is extremely high now.
That the firing pin travel.
I didn't think it really hurt us too much. Could one person shoot 3 different weapons? Sure, why not?
When it was his turn, King planned to use his client's videotaped statement to help make his case.
He didn't want to get hurt. He didn't want to get shot. He was doing what he was told.
He's telling you to do this, and he's telling you to do that. He got a big ass gun. then I'm doing that.
A year after the execution-style killing of Brandon Brown, one man had been found guilty of capital murder. The second man, Lorenzo Johnson, was now on trial for the same charge.
Now, Lorenzo Johnson was going to be a different case, completely different case.
The prosecutor, Mark Moffitt, called lead detective Robert Arredondo to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Detective, please state your name.
Detective Roberto Arredondo Jr.
They immediately turned to key evidence.
I flew to Minneapolis and interviewed him.
Lorenzo Johnson's videotaped statement.
Did anybody threaten him or coerce him or promise him anything?
No, sir.
For the prosecution, the statement proved that he was part of the robbery.
That was huge. I mean, that laid out the whole scenario, almost completely corroborated the victim's accounts of what happened. So that was the key piece of evidence in that case.
For the defense, the statement illustrated Johnson's fear, the core of the defense, that he was acting under duress.
I engaged in the conduct, but the reason I did it was because I was in fear of my life or another person's life, and that's why I did it.
What Mr. Johnson's telling you, every time Black told him to do something, he did it.
Yes, sir.
There's this question of forced to do something. What was meant by that question?
King hammered away at Arredondo, trying to show the jury that even he believed that Johnson had been forced into cooperating with Eric Harris.
And the purpose of that particular conversation, quite frankly, was to see if he would admit having shot somebody, but under some kind of duress.
Yes.
Have no further questions. Pass the witness.
Mr. Moffitt.
Moffitt now planned to call the family friend from Minneapolis, the one who turned Johnson in. He would testify that Johnson admitted to helping plan the robbery. Then, at the last moment, he hadn't shown up. Presiding Judge Tracy Holmes asked why the informant wasn't there.
Well, that's because some lawyer told them they didn't have to come. That's a lie.
Excuse me, Mr. King.
Don't you ever tell me that I told you. Did I say it was you? Did I say it was you? Well, that's the insinuation. I said some lawyer told me.
King thought Moffitt was accusing him of sabotaging his case.
You made an accusation in my face. You turned towards me and made an insinuation. The judge thought you did. Everybody else in the jury, out in the gallery, thought you did.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, come on.
I was probably out of line. I shouldn't have acted the way I did, and it was inappropriate for me to respond the way I did, and I apologize to the judge, but hey, that's just life in a trial.
My reaction is to try to maintain some decorum in the courtroom and to try to get control of the lawyers. And generally, I'm able to do that. But in some instances, I am not. And in that instance, I was not.
It's still hearsay.
Moffitt wanted Detective Arredondo to tell the jury what the Minneapolis informant had told him. King objected.
I'm going to let Mr. Moffitt ask that question.
Who said that and what they said?
The defendant told him that they had been involved in a robbery of some dope dealers and that there were some shots fired.
The testimony implied that Johnson was in on the robbery from the beginning. Now, it would be up to the defendant himself to convince the jury otherwise.
A jury trial is a roll of the dice. It's a gamble. It always is. He knew that he was going to be asked hard questions by Mr. Moffitt. It was ultimately his decision. He wanted to get on the stand and tell his side of it, and he did.
Thank you, sir.
Duress is an extremely hard defense because he needs to say, well, I thought I was going to be killed all during this, so therefore find me not guilty.
Why didn't you jump Black? Why didn't you get a Black at a gun and I can't fight with him?
You know, I was scared. I had been up all night, and I was just scared. I was scared.
You don't move an inch until Black tells you to do something.
I don't do anything until he directs me. Everything I did, he told me to do everything.
During the robbery, Johnson brought stolen items out to his car several times. King needed him to explain why he didn't try to get away while he could.
Once again, you're outside.
Yes, sir.
You got a chance to just run on foot, get out of there, just take your chances and deal with it like a man. Do you do that?
Well, sir, I felt that if I would have left in, he could find me easily. I have nowhere to go. I have nowhere to go. I'm living on the street.
You think your life might be in jeopardy if you did anything at that point?
Yes, sir.
You could have gone to the police.
Yes, sir. I was scared. If they don't catch him before he catches up with me, then I'm dead.
Now the prosecutor, Moffitt, would have his turn at Johnson.
You can run away, but instead, you go back in the apartment of the guy that's going to shoot you.
Yes, sir.
In Dallas, two men were accused of the execution-style shooting of Brandon Brown. One man had already been found guilty. The other, Lorenzo Johnson, was now on trial. On the stand, Johnson claimed he was forced into participating in the crime.
Everything I did, he told me to do everything.
You were one of the victims, too. You're scared to death of a guy with a gun and you're not even looking at him.
The prosecutor, Mark Moffitt, was determined to show that Johnson had played an active role in the robbery and murder.
Taping somebody up so they later could be dragged and executed is helping.
I was done what I was told.
Okay.
Under Texas law, Johnson could be found guilty without having pulled the trigger if he assisted Eric Harris with the murder, or if he did nothing to prevent it from happening.
You go tie people up and steal all their stash, people can die. You make it that simple? Yes, he's guilty under parties too.
Now, are you saying then that you did participate in this capital murder?
I felt that I wouldn't commit capital murder. I felt that I just was doing what I was told to do. Now, I don't feel that I committed capital murder. No, I don't.
In other words, you didn't do anything.
Now, I'm not saying that I did it willingly. No, I didn't. I'm saying I was told to do things that I did because I was afraid.
I mean, you're scared he's going to shoot you right in the head. Right?
He didn't have to shoot me in the head. He could have shot me in the foot. I was scared to get shot anywhere, in the head.
And you can run away, but instead, you go back in the apartment of the guy that's going to shoot you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You want us to believe that, Mr. Johnson?
This is true.
The argument the state made was, well, you could have gone to the police would have immediately taken care of it. Well, when you live on the street and you got somebody wandering around, they think you've gone to the cops. It's not real hard to hunt you down, find you, kill you, and drop you in a field somewhere.
You know, I wanted to do something, but I was too scared. You know, I wanted to do something. I felt like a coward, you know. I have no clue about it.
That's all right.
Thank you, sir. You may sit.
With the testimony complete, the defense rested. Now, the closing arguments would begin.
All right.
It is your last opportunity to talk to that jury. And you certainly want to leave them understanding what your position is as clearly as you possibly can.
Board, Mr. Moffitt. Members of the jury, good morning. State's got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there was no duress. Which theory are we going with the state? Because, you know, they got so many, they're not sure either. And you know why? Because they don't know beyond a reasonable doubt. Vincent and Chris have specifically said and testified that this guy didn't do a single thing until he was directed to do it. Now think about that. He continually says, I didn't shoot anybody. You know, I got caught up in this thing. I wasn't really involved. I'm just doing it because I was told to do it. This charge, this courtroom, is for people like him to get a fair shake. It's for people like you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time and your attention. This case is going to be one of the simplest cases you will ever see. Because why? Two of the executed people lived. If they would have died, we probably wouldn't be here. They would have got away with it. Because he certainly wasn't coming forward. Is there one of you that really thought the defendant would tell the detective, we planned to do this robbery all along, when they're lined up, I actually executed one of them? Do you think he would say that? You can take the defendant's own statement right here on this witness stand. The best he can do, he's still guilty. Don't feel sorry for him. He has earned the guilty verdict. Okay.
After 4 days of testimony, Lorenzo Johnson's fate was now in the hands of the jury.
I wasn't worried that the jury would have sympathy for this guy because of the things that didn't make sense.
I knew that they would be sympathetic towards anybody that had been shot under these circumstances. The question for the jury was going to be whether or not Lorenzo Johnson was a party to the offense.
As the minutes passed, Brandon Brown's family waited anxiously to hear the jury's decision.
He claimed to be the victim. He claimed to do things out of fear. We were like, don't let this man get off. He can't get off. He can't.
All right.
In just under an hour, the jury had reached a verdict.
Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And is your verdict as follows? We, the jury, find the defendant Lorenzo Dwayne Johnson guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment. Is that the unanimous verdict of the jury? Thank you.
All right.
Lorenzo Johnson was found guilty of capital murder.
When those families hug you and they think you're like, you're their voice. You're their voice for their children, their brother, their wife, their husband, and that's a big deal.
I don't think the jury ever believed that Lorenzo Johnson ever shot anybody, but I think they believed that he had an opportunity to leave and didn't.
I sit there and just cried. That's all I could do. Because he really thought that he was going to get away with it.
Their goal was to execute him, all three of them. Luckily for us, they weren't successful. Unfortunately, Brandon Brown did lose his life, and Chris is paralyzed.
I believe that we as homicide detectives are charged with the duty of bringing justice to folks who can't talk anymore. And that gives you a sense of closure. That in this horrible crime, something was made right.
1 year after Brandon's death, his family is still trying to deal with their loss.
I deal with it now better than before. He rides in my truck with me every day because I carry his obituary with me. It has not left since the day we buried him.
Like today, I really just can't believe that he's gone. It's like I can go through my whole day. And once I get by myself and I'm sitting by myself, you know, I'm thinking of him. It just hurts so. It's like I can't get past it. I never experienced no pain like that. No.
An iconic Atlanta destination becomes the scene of a vicious crime.
This person stood over and shot her while she was in her most vulnerable state. A strong-minded detective with a passion to solve the case.
You're dealing with the most horrific thing that could happen to an individual, and you want to find the person who did that.
This savage attack was caught on tape. And provides key clues to the killer's identity.
You're positive it's him in the video?
The hunt is on.
She broke up with a boyfriend.
But a confounding set of clues must be deciphered.
Injuries to a victim tell a story.
Is sexual assault a motive?
Before finally uncovering...
You got the wrong guy.
The truth.
What happened? What made this monster flip that way?
Behind a senseless murder.
It's time to come clean.
We're in downtown ATL, home to underground Atlanta. There was a time when this was like our city's Times Square.
Historically, this area dates back to the 1800s. Over the years, it's gone through many renovations.
The last time underground Atlanta was actually thriving was in 1996. That's when the world came to Atlanta for the Olympics. Eventually, businesses started failing. And in 2016, the place shut down completely.
Crime was rampant in the area. And on a cold night back in 2017, police raced to the scene to investigate a shocking and violent crime.
Request for an ambulance at 50 Upper Alabama Street. We have an unidentified black female found laying in a puddle of blood.
Is the female breathing?
Officers at the scene report that she is not.
On the night of January 10th, 2017, Atlanta police respond to a dead body at underground Atlanta. Homicide detective Jamel Logan is assigned as lead on the case.
At the time, I'd been in the homicide unit for about a year, but I wasn't like a rookie anymore. I wanted to work at a police department because I like to help people, and you can go out and get justice for them.
We worked with Detective Logan and knew he was a keeper from the rip. What knocked me off my feet with Detective Logan was his confidence. I mean, it was oozing out of his pores.
Just his presence without even saying a word was deafening.
What do we have?
Let me take it to the bottom. It takes a certain type of a person and the mindset to actually work murders. You want to find the person who did that and get them off the streets so they don't hurt anybody else. If you look at the underground Atlanta, you have an upper level here, that's the main street level. And then there's a stairwell that goes down to a lower level. That's out of view. That's where the victim's body was located. The victim was a black female, light skin. The victim had braids, black jacket on, a black shirt, gray, like leggings and black boots.
A lot of times when you're looking at a crime scene, you have to look at what's not present, what's not apparent. Victim is fully clothed, okay? Is sexual assault a motive? Probably not.
You got a lot of questions here, but injuries to a victim tell a story.
There was a lot of blood. There was a lot of bruising to the victim's face. She was pretty badly beaten.
I think she knew her killer.
It could be an ex-boyfriend, ex-husband. That could be the motive in this thing.
This is curious.
There was a puncture wound to her neck.
I wonder what caused it.
There was no shell casings on scene. There was no knife located on the scene. There was nothing down there that would explain how she sustained her injuries.
When homicide detectives arrive on scenes, the number one piece of evidence is the body. We start there. We look at what happened and we go outwards.
Here we go.
There was a purple purse on the ground, like next to the victim. One of the first theories that came to my mind was a potential robbery.
Got a wallet, no ID, cell phone.
And appeared that everything was still intact in her purse, so that kind of muddied the waters a little bit as far as a robbery.
Check this out.
By the victim's body, there were 2 glass doors, which were another entrance into the underground Atlanta Mall. On those glass doors were several handprints.
Could this be the killer's handprint as he's leaving the stairwell?
Can you lift those prints?
I'll try.
In the almost 19 years I was in homicide, you'd be damn lucky if you got a partial print, but you gotta make the attempt.
I go back up the stairs.
There's gotta be something else around here.
We're looking in trash cans, we're looking on the ground. One trash can, there was a little shot bottle that you can buy at a store. It looked out of place.
Bag this.
And then there was a cigar wrapper, a Swisher Sweet.
Send them to the lab.
You don't know what you have until you know what you're looking for. So it's important that every homicide detective collects everything.
We notice all the security cameras around at the Underground Atlanta.
Underground Atlanta is Video City. There are cameras everywhere.
The news. You get a copy of the surveillance footage. All right, let's get the canvassing.
You would expect to hear witnesses that would have heard something going on if somebody was getting murdered, screams or yells or something like that. But we didn't find any witnesses at that time. The next steps in my investigation is the next morning I attended the autopsy of the victim.
We have an ID yet?
No, she's still a Jane Doe.
Starting a case with a Jane Doe happens quite a bit.
When you don't know your victim's identity, you got question marks everywhere.
They fingerprint the victim, so they have to send that off to get processed so we can try to figure out who the victim is at that point. That takes time.
The victim was definitely assaulted.
At autopsy, you start painting a picture of exactly what happened to that victim.
What about that wound on the neck?
It's a gunshot. And here too.
The victim was shot, and she was shot twice, once in the face and once in the neck. I was kind of shocked, to be honest, because I didn't see that.
The bullet goes in under the eye and comes out down below the cheek. That's a downward trajectory. That means this person that savagely attacked this woman then stood over and shot her while she was in her most vulnerable state.
The cause of death is a gunshot wound from a small caliber weapon, maybe a .22.
There was no shell casings out there at the crime scene, so that led me to believe it had to be a revolver.
Okay, thanks.
Now I know how the victim died, but I'm still trying to identify who the victim is.
It's almost as if this poor sister fell out of the sky. Detective Logan hopes to find something that will lead to the victim's identity.
I'm going through the victim's belongings that she had on scene.
What's this?
He discovers something extraordinary. He finds a business card of a McDonough City police officer with a case number on it.
The McDonough Police Department is southeast of the city, so I reach out to them.
This is Detective Logan with APD.
I asked them, can they give me some more information on this police report number that they had and who it belonged to?
It looks like a domestic.
It's for a domestic violence case 9 days before the date that this victim was killed.
It was crazy.
Who filed the report?
They told me that it belonged to a person by the name of Misha Moore.
Misha Moore. Can you send me everything you have?
The question becomes, is Misha Moore Detective Logan's victim?
What do we have?
Let me take to the body.
Detective Jamel Logan is investigating the homicide of a woman found dead in Underground Atlanta.
The victim was beaten and shot to death.
This is a violent attack, and Logan already thinks it's personal.
We have an ID yet?
No, she's still a Jane Doe.
You've got someone you haven't identified. It just keeps your investigation with nothing but dead ends.
What's this?
Detective Logan uncovers a clue in the victim's purse that leads to a police report from a neighboring agency.
This is Detective Logan with APD.
Now, if that police report is tied to this victim, not only is he going to identify who this victim is, he may have caught his killer,
Who filed the report?
He gets the name back, Misha Moore.
Can you send me everything you have?
That's the most relevant clue that Logan has to go on.
They gave me a copy of the report. They emailed it to me. Misha and another male were staying at a hotel. They get into a physical altercation, and they get kicked out of the hotel. She calls 911, and then the McDonough Police Department show up. The male suspect is no longer on scene.
There isn't a photo of Misha in the report, but there's an address listed for her in New York.
So I had to reach out to the NYPD.
Her name is Misha Moore, age 27.
They ran it through their database, and they had her driver's license, and so they emailed all that to me in pictures.
That's her.
So now I knew my victim was actual Misha Moore.
Once you get a name, you can start working.
Logan, that video you're waiting on came in.
Thanks.
Cameras are the next best thing to having somebody tell you what happened.
All right, we got multiple camera angles on this, so.
The fact that Logan has a crime scene with this many cameras, I mean, he's got digital serendipity.
Look there.
At 5:52 p.m., Detective Logan finds his victim, Misha Moore, walking around down an underground.
Who's this guy?
She's with another gentleman who's a younger-looking black male.
Yeah, looks like she knows him.
And they're talking, and there's nothing, like, out of the ordinary going on.
Maybe it's the guy from the police report.
You can't get a good look at that person's face, but you got an excellent look at his clothes. He has on a white construction hat, and he has on, like, these brown work construction pants.
This guy was clearly just getting off work.
All right, next camera.
We were able to track their movements on the upper level of the underground until they went to the stairwell and went down to the lower level.
He's seeing his victim in life before she's going to be killed in a matter of minutes. It's about to go down.
Penny.
I was actually in the homicide office that day.
The murder at Underground Atlanta.
Logan called me over. He's looking at the video.
You see a violent confrontation between the two take place on video.
This unknown male is beating the living hell out of this victim. And as we're looking at this video, something catches my eye.
Oh.
What?
Stop it right there. Rewind a few seconds, play it again.
And clear as day, you see muzzle flash. Boom, boom.
There it is.
It's shocking to capture somebody take their last breath, somebody's life coming to an end at the hands of another person. Oh yeah, oh yeah. You can see it like you'll remember it like for the rest of your life. Like you don't forget something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, you never forget it. Yeah.
Damn.
You can work homicide forever, but every now and then you'll see something that will shake you up.
Now, where does he go?
And this guy calmly walking out of the stairwell. It was sociopathic.
The suspect heads over to the MARTA train station. Like, it didn't faze him. Didn't care. Just went on about his life. Like it was nothing.
You got your work cut out for you.
Uh-huh.
This video is the crown jewel of this investigation.
Good luck. Let me know.
Starting with Misha's next of kin.
Detective Logan needed to contact Misha's family to make a death notification. He searched through the police database and found her mother's name, but he couldn't find any contact information for her.
Logan thought Misha's cell phone, recovered at the crime scene, had all the answers. Logan searched the phone's contacts and found a number listed as mom.
He called and it was actually Misha's mom. She said her daughter had been missing for a couple of days and she hadn't heard from her. So she sent a photo of Misha to Detective Logan.
At this point, Misha's mom just knew something bad had happened. It wasn't ideal, but Detective Logan had to go ahead and break the news to her over the phone.
He hoped her mother could identify this guy, so he asked her to come in for an interview.
Thank you so much for your time.
Misha Moore's mother, she came down to the police headquarters along with her son.
She's been through a lot.
Misha's mom was telling me a backstory about her daughter. She just hit hard times like a lot of people do in life, and she's looking for a second chance to get her life back on track.
She broke up with a boyfriend.
That's why they got her from New York down to Atlanta, hoping for a fresh start, a fresh city, new people.
Any idea who could have killed her?
Misha Moore's mom tells Detective Logan, yes, I do.
I have some names.
Logan's got to figure out who these possibles are given by the mother ASAP.
Tell me. The murder at Underground Atlanta.
When Detective Logan reviews the surveillance video in the Misha Moore case, he makes a shocking discovery.
There it is.
We actually see when she actually dies.
Damn.
This is the murder caught on tape.
Thank you for coming in.
Detective Logan reaches out to his victim's family to see if anyone may have wanted to harm the victim.
Any idea who could have killed her?
To Detective Logan's surprise, Misha Moore's mom tells him she knows exactly who may want to have hurt her daughter.
I have some names. Misha's ex, for starters.
She was dating a guy up in New York, and things weren't going the best.
He didn't treat her right.
That's why they got her away from him down to Atlanta. They thought maybe that person just kept following her and doing harm to her.
Did he ever come down here?
No.
You said names?
There's this guy here in Atlanta.
Her mom mentioned there was an African guy that they thought was not treating their daughter the best.
His name is Mark.
They were thinking that he had something to do with her murder because I guess he was violent with her in the past.
He wasn't good to her.
She was dating an African male that was controlling. This may fit the bill of who this person is.
If it's Mark, if it's somebody she knows, then that could have been him walking with her in the security video. She was brutally beaten before she was murdered. That's personal. That's something that a boyfriend would do if they're upset.
I'll be in touch.
That's good. Misha Moore's mom has now put Detective Logan on the track of two possible suspects.
We met with Detective Logan so he could walk us through what he did next. So, Jay, when you have to make this horrible death notification, you make contact with your victim, Misha's mom. She talked about an ex-boyfriend with of some concern to her, this ex-guy.
She had a violent relationship back in New York with her ex-boyfriend. I have to do my due diligence to figure out, make sure that that guy who was harming her up there didn't make his way down to Atlanta.
What did you find out about him?
I couldn't place him down in Atlanta. I checked the best way I could, and from all accounts, he never made it down here.
So you eventually eliminated him as a suspect?
I did.
Misha's mom not only gives you this brother up in New York, she also gives you something to nibble on down here with a guy named Mark. I mean, how'd that go?
So I was able to try to determine who Mark was. His height, weight, size, complexion did not match up to the guy in the video, so I was able to eliminate him as well.
So now you've eliminated two people?
Yes.
You're back to 0 suspects.
Yeah.
What do you do next to find the next clue?
Well, I started going through Misha's personal effects on the scene. I want you guys to take a look. And through her purse, I was able to find these shot glasses. And I'm seeing these liquor shot bottles and realizing I remember seeing the same type of bottle back on the crime scene in the trash can.
That's an aha moment.
Yeah. And now I'm matching them up. Now I'm like, I gotta go find out where these bottles came from.
Man. We know Underground Atlanta has all kinds of stores around here.
Yes.
So did you just start going down the street, looking at different stores to try to figure out, and looking on the shelves and seeing if these bottles of liquor are there?
Exactly. I had a gut feeling that the bottles in the trash can and in Misha's purse had some kind of significance to finding out who her killer is, right? I just now need to find the store that has these bottles.
Detective Logan keys in on the only convenience store in the area.
It's just blocks away from the fateful crime scene where Misha Moore lost her life.
You sell these?
I go in and I'm asking them, hey, do you have these bottles that you sell? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Are your cameras working?
I let them know that there was a murder that took place at the Underground. So I said, do you mind if I review your video footage from the date and time of when that incident took place? My purpose of that is to look at the security video to see if I can locate Misha on camera buying those bottles from that store, and if at this point she runs into the killer.
Logan's praying like mercy for this guy to come and get in camera frame. And almost like he took instruction from Logan, he pulls right up to the camera and shows a big picture.
The killer actually walks into the store, the same white construction hat, same blue jacket, same brown pants.
When you believe this, Logan sees this guy in the construction hat walk in the video. He wasn't even looking for him all.
You know, that's the luck of the draw there.
The gentleman in the video walk up to the counter and he looks up, and I had him at that point. And he's buying Swisher Sweets, which is the same brand that we found that night. That was video gold. Now I have a picture, I have video. Now I just have to get him identified.
Detective Logan notices a critical detail about the suspect's clothing in the video.
There's a conspicuous Atlanta Football Club United sticker on the helmet.
I'm under the impression that this person actually works at the construction site helping build the new Atlanta Falcons football stadium, which is where Atlanta United also plays.
What he's got to do right now is head over and find out who this guy is with this construction helmet.
I talked to the site manager.
Take a look at this picture.
And I'm asking him, do you know who this guy is? And does he work on your site?
This is a murder case, and I really need your help.
It's all coming together. Logan will now know soon who this person is.
Detective Logan now has a clear picture of the man suspected of killing Misha Moore.
It's the best photo he had so far of his suspect. It's the same guy seen in the video walking with the victim. He's on the right track right now.
Detective Logan sees this Atlanta United soccer sticker on the side of the white construction hat worn by the suspect. So he actually goes to the construction site to see if he can find out who he is.
Do you recognize him?
This picture was so clear, which is going to probably help him ID his suspect.
Well, he doesn't look familiar, but definitely works here.
He works on the construction site because only the workers that work on their site have that Atlanta United sticker on their construction hat. So he's one of his 2,000 employees working there. He just doesn't know which one.
We'll figure it out.
He's going to go through his whole employee Rolodex to see if he can find out who that gentleman is. He put his staff on that right away.
Detective Logan went back to the office and brainstormed with everybody, including us.
When Logan showed us the picture of this guy, it was so clear. We told him, you got to get this photo out to the media right now.
In Atlanta, we're a see something, say something city. We want all citizens to jump in and help out. Logan contacted the media and they put the suspect's face all over the local news. He was praying he wouldn't have to wait long for his phone to ring.
That evening, I'm at home. I'm waiting to see if Crime Stoppers send us an email, if anybody's calling in any tips. But I get a call on my cell phone.
Detective Logan.
The gentleman's on the other end, and he says that he was watching the local news and he recognizes the individual in the security video at the store.
How do you know it's the right guy?
We're family.
And he tells me that I know him very well. He was like, I'm his uncle.
You're positive it's him in the video?
Yes.
The uncle just restored my faith in mankind. I mean, that's huge.
What's his name?
Felix Shirley.
And he told me that he would get in touch with Felix Shirley's father and have him meet me.
Have him come to my office.
A stranger can make a mistake and say, hey, I think that's my neighbor. I think it's the mailman. But if you're related by blood and you call in, that's 100%. And that's exactly what Logan got.
Felix Shirley.
I'd run his name in our system and got his criminal history.
You gotta be kidding me.
There was no violent crimes that he committed. It was mainly like traffic offenses. That's like going from 0 to 100 of traffic offenses to murder.
It totally shocked Logan when he realized who exactly he was dealing with.
You've got a visitor.
Have a seat.
Felix Shirley's father shows up to speak with Detective Logan.
So I always try to let family members know that I'm not trying to railroad their kid, their loved one. I'm upfront and honest where I'm at in the investigation and what evidence that I have against their family member.
Who's that?
It's my son, but it must be a misunderstanding.
Felix was from a hardworking family. Like, father was like, I never did anything like that. We go to church, we work hard.
Let me show you something else.
I even showed us some still photos showing that his son was together with her on that day, right before that murder.
This is Felix with the victim.
That it wasn't a shadow of a doubt that his son committed the murder.
That's your son.
And once he seen all that, he knew and he understood.
It's gut-wrenching that the actual father of our suspect participated in the identification. I mean, I'd have to think about that if I had one of my children involved in something this grave. I mean, you want to do the right thing. You say you might do the right thing, but are you really going to do it?
I just don't understand.
You can see his father was heartbroken. He let me know that his son is engaged to get married and that he has a couple of kids, little kids.
Where's your son live?
At an apartment off of Boulder Crest.
He gives the exact apartment number. He said his son stays over there with his fiance at the time and their kids.
Once you've got your suspect identified, you want to go to the crib. You want to see if he's there.
Hey, we need to hit an apartment.
Detective Logan's got to get over there ASAP and see if Shirley's still on the property.
You're positive it's him in the video?
Yes.
In the Misha Moore homicide investigation, Detective Logan gets a tip identifying his suspect as Felix Shirley.
Where's your son live?
He actually speaks with the suspect's father, and his father actually gives him an address.
Hey, we need to hit an apartment.
He sends out the Atlanta fugitive team to go snuff this guy out. The team raids the apartment, but Felix is nowhere to be found.
The place is empty.
All right, good. Thanks.
Detective Logan gets a search warrant looking for evidence. Our target's not there, he's saying to himself, but I want to see what's going on in this house, see if I can retrieve any evidence.
I call our crime scene techs out there. We found the brown work pants that Felix had on when he encountered Misha. There was blood all over the work pants.
Jackpot.
I found a white construction hat in his bedroom that still had the Atlanta United logo on it, and it had bloodstains on the construction hat.
It's just laid out like, here you go, Detective Logan. I'm gonna let you go ahead and clear your case the right way. I'm leaving all the evidence out. Ass out.
You find a gun?
No, but we have enough.
There's no gun, but that's okay. Contrary to popular belief, we don't get guns a fraction of the time when we're working these homicide investigations.
Logan got the treasure trove that day of exactly what he needed. The DNA on that blood is going to be this victim's blood.
This is Felix's girl.
You got the wrong guy.
She mentioned that she doesn't know where Felix's current whereabouts are. He's an innocent man, and he's just not guilty of the crime that I'm accusing him of.
How do you know?
He told me.
He gave her a story that I met the girl. The girl was trying to come on to me, trying to get my number, but I didn't have anything to do with her.
That's the interaction from the video from the news.
There are other videos we didn't share.
She was like, there's no way somebody with a good job, no real criminal record, would kill some random girl they doesn't know for no reason and then come back home and show no signs of it. She just like, I wouldn't be with somebody like that.
He can tell me all about it when we find him.
He will.
I wasn't mad at her. I expect you to defend them if they're a cold-blooded killer or not, and she didn't believe he was.
Everyone was out looking for Felix Shirley. Detective Logan, U.S. Marshals, even our fugitive unit. But there was no sign of this brother. He was a ghost.
Finally, about 2 weeks later, on January 30th, an informant called our fugitive unit with a tip that the suspect was seen near a bus stop in southeast Atlanta.
Officers raced to the scene, and after a brief foot chase, Felix Shirley was in custody.
And about the same time, Logan received notice from the crime lab that the fingerprints obtained from the glass door at Underground Atlanta did in fact belong to Felix Shirley.
Felix Shirley was brought to homicide for questioning, and Detective Logan hoped that he would talk.
I bring Felix Shirley into the interview room.
Have a seat.
I read him his rights, and he wants to speak to me without having an attorney present.
Sign here.
You signed that waiver of counsel? It's on like popcorn. We doing it.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. He's very nervous, very, very nervous. Like he needs to get something off his chest type nervous.
Tell me why you're here.
I'm just here to clear my name.
You're not always going to get a confession, and most of the time you're not. And to this point in Logan's career, he has not had a confession yet.
Tell me about Misha Moore.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He says no, don't know her. That's a question that Detective Logan, of course, already knew the answer to. And Felix Shirley failed that question.
I guess we're doing this.
And I'm like, I'm here because I believe you killed Misha, right? And I have photos to put you guys together on the day she got murdered, during the time frame she got murdered. And you need to explain that.
Try again.
He laid it down. He undressed this guy mentally first, and then he went in for the kill.
It's time for the truth. Tell me about Misha Moore.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Detective Logan has suspect Felix Shirley in the box.
Try again.
Okay, yeah, that's me. And?
He actually got suspect Felix Shirley to identify himself from the surveillance video.
Logan is slowly pulling the information out of Felix Shirley piece by piece.
It's time for the truth.
He's got him.
You're right.
He's like, oh, I remember now. I did meet her down there, but she was coming on to me. She was trying to get my number.
But I didn't kill her.
No more games. Tell me what happened. Start at the beginning.
I met her at a corner store. She propositioned me.
He says that she wanted to do some kind of sexual stuff, sexual act stuff. And was he interested?
We went to a stairwell for privacy, and that was it.
They go down to the stairwell together, and then he brings up, well, I only have $8. And she was like, well, you can't get anything for $8. I'm more than $8. He says at that point, he just turns around, leaves, goes home.
Really?
Yes.
That's you.
And I show him the video of the interaction that he had between him and Misha. How he got physical, how he was punching her.
You're the only person with her.
I learned this from Quinn and Vinny. When you're interviewing people, especially murderers, you want to be up close because they can feel the pressure.
It's time to come clean.
I was like, this is your chance to get your version out as to what happened, the truth. It's your chance to give her family, her mother, some closure why you killed her daughter and how you did it. Felix breaks down, starts crying.
And it was about the money, man. Not just snap, man. Just snap.
He states that, He got physical with her because of the $8. He pulls out a handgun. He said it was like a .22 revolver. And then he points the gun at her and shoots her twice in the face. Once in the face and then once went into the neck. And then he said he just picked up his $8, walked up the stairs and went home.
He's sitting in the box, taking responsibility for a murder of a young woman that he only had met 30 minutes before he killed her. It's crazy.
Where's the gun?
It's gone.
He never recovered the gun. But he admitted that he had a .22 revolver. That would explain why there was no shell casings down there. That would explain the small caliber puncture holes into Misha, because the bullet would be so small, it'd be a little tiny puncture wound.
Can you just tell everybody I'm sorry?
And I was like, how about we do this? How about you call your fiance on the phone and you tell her what you did? Because she held him in such high regard. I wanted her to know the truth, the type of person he really is. I put it on speaker, and he told her exactly what he told me.
Stupid. So stupid, man.
And it takes for this to tell me the truth. I knew this was gonna happen.
That they want my money back.
And what she say, no?
Yeah.
He does a double confession. That's on tape. That's evidence too. I've never seen that.
Now you gotta spend the rest of your life behind bars. Your kids will never see you again.
And she was like, and you threw all that away for what? And he didn't have an answer. He just broke down and cried.
For $8.
Felix Shirley's interview was my first confession. It was bittersweet. It was like, I'm glad I got a confession, but like, it doesn't bring Misha back. I ultimately charged Felix Shirley with felony murder and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The district attorney's office added aggravated assault.
In 2017, Felix Shirley goes to trial.
He was found guilty on all counts, and he's serving a life sentence.
This is an incredible, phenomenal case. Like, I can't tell you how proud I am that you solved this case.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
It's just amazing. You climbed the ladder on this case. I mean, you started from the basement. You took it straight to heaven. I mean, you did a beautiful job on this case.
It meant everything to solve this case for Misha's mother, for her family, for her kids. I just hope I did him justice and I gave him some peace.
We know all the hard work that went into this. A little bit of luck, but a hell of a lot of skill is what made this case.
Can you lift those prints?
It was one of the only case where I had everything fall into place like it should have been.
There it is.
Had video evidence to everything, to capture the entire murder. Video evidence of the suspect's face purchasing items of evidentiary value that we found on the crime scene.
He definitely works here.
Just like everything just fell into